Direct News TV. December 16, 2023. Israel-Hamas war live funeral held for slain Al Jazeera journalist. Two homes in northern Gaza were struck by an Israeli attack, resulting in the deaths of 14 people and injuring others. A funeral attended by dozens of mourners has been held for Al Jazeera cameraman Samer Abadaka in Gaza's southern city of Khan Yunis. The Palestinian representative to the UN said, "Enough is enough," after the killing of Abadaka on Friday. Protesters call for the Israeli government to prioritize the release of captives held in Gaza after the Israeli military killed 3 Israeli captives in what was later called a mistake. At least 18,787 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks since October 7. The revised death toll in Israel stands at around 1,200. U.S. says Navy ship shot down 14 one-way attack drones from Yemen. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, said its guided missile destroyer responded to a drone wave from Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen over the Red Sea. It described the launches as one-way attack drones, saying they were shot down with no damage to ships in the area or reported injuries. The Houthis have vowed to attack all ships heading to and from Israel in the waters off Yemen, upping a previous vow to attack any Israeli-linked ships. On Friday, CENTCOM reported that 3 commercial ships had come under fire in the Red Sea. Meanwhile, Houthis earlier today claimed its latest attack on the Israeli port city of Eilat. This is the time to ask for the war to end. One of the captives killed was Samer al-Talalka. About 300 people turned out to mourn al-Talalka, 25, at his funeral in his hometown of Hura, in southern Israel. "We had so many hopes, expectations, that he would come back to us," his cousin Alaa al-Talalka told Israel's public broadcaster Kan from his Bedouin community's mourning tent. "We're not going to start pointing fingers, who is guilty and who is not. It is just not the time. The families are thinking only of how to bring the hostages back alive. This is the time to ask for the war to end." B'Tselem weighs in on captives being shot dead by Israeli soldiers. The Israeli rights group says that it is prohibited by international humanitarian law and basic moral principles to shoot people who yielded and carry a white flag, regardless of whether they're combatants or not, regardless of their nationality and religion. 3 captives killed holding a white flag, Israeli media. According to Haaretz, they were also shirtless when they were shot. One managed to escape while shouting for help in Hebrew, but Israeli soldiers still chased him into a building and shot him dead. The military on Friday identified the 3 hostages killed in Shujaia, an eastern suburb of Gaza City, as Yotam Hayam and Alon Shamriz, abducted from Kibbutz Kfar Aza, and Samer Talalka, abducted from nearby kibbutz Nir Am. The account of how the captives died raises questions about the conduct of Israeli ground troops. Palestinians on several occasions reported Israeli soldiers opened fire as civilians tried to flee to safety. Only 11 out of 36 hospitals in Gaza are functional, although they can admit new patient services, are limited. Only one of these hospitals is in the north, according to the World Health Organization. The 2 major hospitals in southern Gaza operate at 3 times their bed capacity while facing critical shortages of basic supplies and fuel. According to the health ministry in Gaza, occupancy rates are now reaching 206% in inpatient departments and 250% in intensive care units. Additionally, these hospitals are providing shelter to thousands of internally displaced people. Significant deterioration of food security in South Gaza. Severe hunger levels were reported in 44% of households. This is compared to 24% in a previous assessment conducted between November 27 to 30 by the World Food Programme. The proportion of households reporting members going to sleep hungry increased from 34% to 50%. The food security situation in the northern governorates of Gaza is believed to be significantly worse, the UN agency said. Israeli military says it doesn't deliberately target journalists. In comments to CNN, the Israeli army says it takes all operationally feasible measures to protect both civilians and journalists. The military has never and will never deliberately target journalists, it said. Given the ongoing exchanges of fire, remaining in an active combat zone has inherent risks. Al Jazeera media network issued a statement condemning the airstrike that killed its cameraman Samer Abadaka and wounded his colleague Wael Dadu. The Israeli army prevented medics from reaching Abadaka and he bled out after several hours. With the killing, the number of journalists and media workers killed in Gaza reached more than 90. What has happened at Al-Adha is nothing new. This has been the situation with Al-Adha Hospital for the past few days. This is not the first time we have heard about this kind of scenario. We have seen this with the Al-Shifa, Indonesia, and the Ali Arab hospitals, which were all targeted by Israeli air raids. This is a systematic attack on health facilities, schools and public facilities, to send people in Gaza back to the Stone Age. And this is very consistent with Israeli sentiment since the beginning of the war, which is being translated on the ground. Supplies haven't arrived at Al-Adha Hospital for 67 days, The manager of the Al-Adha Hospital, Ahmed Mahana, says basic and essential medical supplies have yet to reach the facility in northern Gaza. In an audio message sent to Al Jazeera, Mahana said no medical aid has reached Al-Adha Hospital in 67 days, saying there was no oxygen available at the facility. Israeli tanks are around the hospital, while one tank closed the entrance, he said. They targeted 2 floors of the hospital from the outside, destroying the surgical wards. We are looking for support from international societies, especially the Red Crescent and the World Health Organization, he noted. France MP denounces participation of citizens in Israeli army. French lawmaker Thomas Portes says it is unacceptable for French nationals to be participating in the war in Gaza, amid the war crimes being committed by the Israeli army, and must be called back. Portes, a member of the left-wing La France Insoumise party, pointed to a report by Radio Network Europe 1 saying that more than 4,000 French nationals were engaged with the Israeli army in Gaza. While the UN, through several of its special rapporteurs, warns of genocidal risks, the presence of citizens with French nationality dishonors France, he posted on X. I ask the Minister of Justice that people of French nationality, including dual nationals, guilty of war crimes be brought before French justice. U.S. cannot stop Houthi attacks in the Red Sea. The prospects of a task force being formed by the U.S. and others to stop attacks in the Red Sea by Yemen's Houthi rebels will not work, analyst Hussein al-Bukaidi has said. They cannot stop the attacks against the ships, and if the U.S. tries to launch any attacks against them, it cannot conduct them from the Red Sea because it's a narrow area, the political commentator and journalist told Al Jazeera. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told reporters last week that Washington was in talks with other countries over forming a maritime task force to ensure safe passage of ships in the Red Sea, but did not give further details. Al-Bukaidi said the only way the U.S. could launch an attack against Yemen is by targeting the country from bases in Gulf nations such as Bahrain or Saudi Arabia. Israeli, Qatari officials to meet in Oslo on Saturday, report. David Barnea, the Israeli intelligence agency's chief, and Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, the Qatari prime minister, are set to meet on Saturday in Norway's capital, Oslo, to renew discussion for the release of captives, the Wall Street Journal has reported, citing people familiar with the matter. The talks were described as exploratory, read the report, adding that Barnea is also expected to meet with Egyptian officials. Pressure on the Israeli government to find a deal for the release of the 129 remaining captives doubled down after Israeli soldiers mistakenly shot dead 3 Israeli captives in northern Gaza. Qatar football fans stand for Gaza against Israel. While football players and fans around the world are being reprimanded for displays of solidarity with Palestine, thousands gathered at the Education City Stadium in Qatar to show their support and help raise funds for Palestinians under attack from Israel in Gaza. The Stand with Palestine charity match, arranged by the Qatar Foundation, was based on an initiative by a group of students hoping to raise money through ticket sales and create awareness about the situation in Gaza, where nearly 19,000 people, including more than 7,000 children, have been killed in the Israeli bombardment since October 7. As a Palestinian myself, it's very hard to see those videos from Gaza, but then I imagine the people living through the oppression and I realize it's much more difficult to endure. A visibly emotional Karim Abbas, one of the Palestinian students involved in organizing the event, told Al Jazeera. Will oil prices rise after Red Sea shipping curbs amid Houthi attacks? Hijackings, missile strikes and drone assaults on ships by Yemen's Houthi rebels have forced AP Moller-Maersk, a Danish shipping and logistics giant, and Hapag-Lloyd, a German shipping and container transportation company, to pause shipments through the Red Sea. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it.